Recently, I had a Q&A where I was talking to some students and I was discussing ways to kind of simplify thought process and workflow. When you're blocking out your shots, just be thinking about poses, think about singular poses and then poses in relationship with one another so that, when you go through, you can see where the character is going and you get an understanding of what the action is going to be that's taking place, and you can kind of follow along, but not getting too bogged down and breaking the shot down too far right away. Offsetting keys already, or partially posing the character out. Grab all controls. We can see that if you look at the graph editor, it's just columns of keys, pretty simple, right? So they're just poses, they're all part of an action, and they're all based on planning through my reference. I'm only grabbing what is necessary to get information so that when I do go to spline later on, it's kind of all there. I look for like knowns, you know what I mean? I look for things like contact positions, passing positions, things like that. Things that are concrete that you can block out easily. So like that's basically what I have here. I have basically 3 poses per stride. So I have my contact pose, my foot roll down, which makes the back foot roll off because he's pushing off that back foot. Then it goes into the passive position and contact and so forth. You know what I mean? So those are kind of things that are just, it's a good starting point to launch off of, just for walks, for example. So then as he approaches the wall here, it's the same thing. I'm just looking at my reference that I shot for this, but then I'm going through it, I'm just kind of blocking through those poses, and tracking here. And I'm just looking at my poses in terms of the relationships. I have a tendency to think in terms of 3 poses, because you can look at 2 poses, right, and not really have an idea as to where it's going. You can do any 2 poses and it makes sense, okay, for the most part. But you add a 3rd pose in there, right, and suddenly you've got a relationship of movement that you can start to determine mentally where it's going directionally, okay? When he jumps over the wall right here, every time I add a new pose, I look at the previous 2 and how it relates to the new pose, and if it's going where I want it to go in terms of what's next, If he were to jump over the wall here and I had him go 1, 2, and then suddenly the next pose, I had him go straight up in the air, that's a directional change that doesn't make sense in relationship to the previous 2 poses. I'm more interested in graphic posing, keeping it very clean and simple, and then my pose relationships, okay? I think that's very important as well.